My. Is my Vernon brooding? I've not seen this before. Mironoir muses as she slips up and sits beside him on the roof. He sighs and tucks away his communicator. It's just rumors, but I trust the source. Apparently Admiral Cistern is declaring us all our own independent state. The territory is the edges of cruel space with intention to build a number of armed starports. An interesting turn of events, Mironoir notes calmly. It is interesting, but there's... Interesting? It's madness! It's treachery. The Dauntless is an enormous investment, so many hopes and dreams resting upon us, and we go rogue? But what can I do? What do I do? I'm just one soldier and part of an unofficial team. I don't have the skills or clout to... This could end so badly, and... He's cut off as Mironoir cuddles into him from behind. He takes a deep, shuddering breath and thinks. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think. I never considered this happening. Is it official? Mironoir asks, and he simply shrugs. I don't know. At the moment, it's just a rumor. But Zan speaks with Sir Philip daily, and Sir Philip is Admiral Cistern's direct assistant. Vernon explains as he tries to think. This isn't like him. Not in the slightest. Admiral Cistern was very much about doing this mission to the best of his abilities. How can he accomplish that if he hijacks it entirely? Even if this is going in the worst way possible, you, at the very least, have a way out, my love. We don't have to return to Centris. Serbo gladly welcomes its princesses home, and sorcerers are always wanted. She assures him, and he leans back to nuzzle against her somewhat. Thank you, that does help a great deal. No official notice has gone out yet, so it's hopefully just an exaggeration, Vernon says as he leans back and sweeps up Mironoir to swing her around and sit her on his lap. He hugs her tightly and is simply silent for a time. She cuddles into him to offer support. Is it really such a worry? New countries are born all the time. Serbo has not had a single day of peace in recorded history. It's merely that our wars are more ceremonial now. Great duels between royals over which village flies, which banner. Yet if the Empress were ever to show herself weak or craven, true war would return. A day all prepare for, Mironoir explains, and Vernon chuckles. I suppose I could use that APUC enthusiasm. Find it as something to look forward to rather than dread, Vernon remarks, and Mironoir giggles. Maybe you just need to burn off some energy? You have too much and are thinking about terrible things without end. Some relief, perhaps? Mironoir offers. Oh? And exactly, how shall we burn it off? Vernon asks her, and she nuzzles into him. We could do this, though there's some risk of my little sisters finding us, Mironoir offers. Not sure an audience would help for that, Vernon remarks, and Mironoir gives him a poke in the forehead for being silly. That's a fair point, but still a silly one. You think they'd honestly stick around when we need privacy? She asks. They're children, it's not the sticking around, it's the barging in, Vernon remarks with an amused tone in his voice. His stress and frustration seemingly melted away. True enough. Perhaps if we were to find someplace scandalously private? Mironoir asks, and Vernon lifts an eyebrow. You've got a plan. Let's hear it, Vernon remarks, and Mironoir whispers in his ear. That is an incredibly risky and more than a little naughty bit of fun you're proposing. You don't think it's a good idea? She asks in a slightly surprised tone. It's an excellent idea, but we're going to be watched by the woods themselves, Vernon remarks, and Mironoir suddenly pauses. Meaning every sorcerer that is and shall be will see us. Perhaps it's not so grand an idea after all, Mironoir mutters with a blush. Not quite that bold? Vernon teases. I'd rather have you all to myself for now. We are on our honeymoon after all. Mironoir purrs, and he lets out a little rumble of contentment and holds her tighter. A very fair point, and since we're both outside already, is there any place you'd like to show me? There is a place not too far away, though there is something I want to do there. Excuse me a minute, she says before giving him a light kiss and hopping out of his lap. All right, I'll be in the backyard, Vernon remarks. Oh no, stay here, otherwise the whole family will want to come. An afternoon alone together is what I want. Then I shall abide, Vernon remarks, and she jumps off the room. He's alone with his thoughts for a few moments. Things just weren't adding up. If Admiral Cistern needed them to somehow start his state of the undaunted, then why would he approve of the village? He couldn't make sense of it. Even if there was a very, very good reason for what Admiral Cistern is doing, then the questions of how he's going to be juggling all this immediately follows it. Back to brooding? Already? Mironoir asks a few moments later as she hops onto the roof to land beside him. I'm not brooding. Leaning forward, chin on fist, eyes fixed on the distance and a hunched-in stance. That's a brood. I'm just trying to think, Vernon protests. A deep melancholy think on a heavy topic. That's a brood. She teases him and he sighs before noticing that she's got one of the shell-patterned backpack on. Come on, let's have some fun and get the brooding over and done with. She giggles and he holds up his hand for her to help him up. There's a little twist of axiom and she scoffs as he lifts into the air at her pull without him bothering to move from his sitting position. She just gives him a slight smile and he unfolds slowly in midair. Okay, where to? He asks with a slight chuckle as he touches down. We're going swimming this way, she says before launching herself off the reinforced roof and into the distance. He follows with a leap of his own and quickly not only catches up but bends the axiom in just such a way as to pull ahead. He turns around in midair and slowly turns upside down so that he ends up nearly face to face with Mironoir as they soar. That's going to make landing awkward. She notes looking somewhat to the left as he pulls ahead. Reality blinks and he's suddenly beside her and slowly turning in the air to face forward. They slam into the side of a mountain, and Mironoir launches off to redirect herself, and he follows after sticking to the wall for a moment to judge her trajectory properly. He's already coming up behind her as Mironoir glances backwards to see if he's following. Is it that little inlet down there? He asks as they come up on the coast. Yes, but we're going a little fast and we'll be landing in the water. Oh, whatever shall we do? She teases and he chuckles. They land on the surface of the ocean moments later, Mironoir safely in Vernon's arms as the surface drops like a trampoline and launches up to form massive waves. One he skates on as he heads to an inlet. Far below, something in the water, something gigantic, stirs. I take it this is the right way? Vernon asks, slowly letting Mironoir down and guiding her in the skating across the surface of the sea. Then he reaches out and grabs her other hand before crouching down and starting a spin with the two of them before picking her up and twirling with her. Oh, this takes me back, Mironoir gushes. Care for a longer skate? We only had a little time on the water and a bit of fun. We could have a lot more before even entering it this time. Vernon offers, and Mironoir sighs in contentment. That sounded like a yes to me. Of course it was. I was just waiting for the opportunity, Mironoir gushes. In truth, she had forgotten that it was called skating and didn't want to embarrass herself admitting it. Actually, forgetting a detail on how she met her husband was just shameful, but she was much more focused on what they were actually doing and how it felt than what things were called. You should have said something. This is fun, Vernon says as they glide over the ocean, dipping up and down with the waves as something large circles far below. So what's that thing under us? I think it's hungry. If it acts on it, then it's the main course of our next meal. The jagged coastline has a sheer drop-off directly into a dark water trench. There are about 4 massive races down there. About? Vernon asks. Oh, Erthelkek, the lifebinder. He literally went off the deep end in his rage and combined several Leviathan-class monsters into a single super beast before bringing it up to rampage. Yes, it laid eggs as it came up. We're not sure to this day if his monster was able to reproduce or if they were just normal Leviathans. Either way, it certainly went to show that sorcerers were more than just mystery and woodsy ways. That the power ran deeper and stranger, Mironoir adds, and Vernon chuckles. I suppose I pushed those limits again, transmutation, time manipulation, and sheer thermal control to command warfire and ice at once. I added quite a bit, I think. Vernon notes. Not that you're boasting or anything, Mironoir notes with a smile. Not at all. Much like when I claimed to have the most beautiful princess to ever hold the title. He compliments as they skim in a lazy circle. Oh, my Vernon! Mironoir gushes before cuddling into him as the skating slows and she just basks in his presence. They slow to a stop and upon the dark water just hold each other for a moment. Right before a maw erupts around them both as a Leviathan erupts from below. Jagged teeth slam together as an impossibly huge creature crashes through the surface to make a meal out of them, only to scream in agony as even when gushing over his wife, Vernon is on the ball and had teleported them out of immediate danger. Now they stand just behind the beast, hand in hand, and balanced on the frothing ocean surrounding the monster. Mironoir is a battle princess, meaning the creature has already been impaled by her weapon, and the brutal spikes along the side of the war sword fulfill their purpose and dig deep into the flesh, which allows her to cut a massive gouge out of the meat and straight to the bone on its scalp, tearing the creature open as if it were made of paper. Chill! Vernon orders, and the water surrounding the monster turns to ice as he grabs the thermal energy and then shapes it into a lance of green war fire he hurls into the open wound. The fire burns through the bone and directly into the gigantic but proportionately small brain of the monster. There's a rush of steam as the brain of the beast is flash-cooked and the whale-sized monster goes still. The gigantic beast slumps over to lie dead in the water, and Vernon considers, "So, how much do we eat? How much do we keep, and how much do we give to others?" He asks Mironoir, who looks confused for a moment before comprehension dawns. "Well, it's certainly too large to eat on our own. Sharing it with family still isn't enough. It would be a waste to fell a creature like this in battle and not see what kind of sauces and drinks pair well with it. There are recipes, but these beasts are usually rather hard to fight. Balancing on water is a bit of a difficult trick, and sorcerers aren't well known for enjoying hunts, but it takes an entire community to butcher and prepare a leviathan of any type. Well, let's pin it down so it doesn't float away and see who we need to talk to," Vernon remarks. "Things just get more and more interesting. This is going to be quite the feast." "No, this will be a festival," Mironoir notes as she uses warfire to clean her blade and then cools it with a dip into the water. She stashes it away and pulls out her communicator. She still hasn't let go of Vernon's hand as he uses the axiom to guide the Leviathan closer to shore. Neither of them even consider letting go. The butler did it. The world was nothing. It wasn't anything. She was contained, utterly contained. For a time she had been wet, but things had grown numb. She was floating in utter darkness and a complete void of sound. She would focus the axiom, but all she could sense was that she was within a tri-tight coffin. Trapped, like an animal. Time meant nothing. She had fallen into and out of consciousness so many times she could no longer tell the difference anymore. Nothing to see and nothing to hear but her own screams. Her claws had been surgically removed. Something was wrong with her fangs. She couldn't bite through her tongue, and she couldn't even fully bite down. There is nothing in this hell of absence. Even her heartbeat is so calm and soft that she can barely hear it if she focuses with all her might. She has no position to maneuver, and the numbness has grown to the point she can't tell if she even has all her limbs. For a time, her imagination paints vivid pictures to keep her entertained. Then the color bleeds away, the sounds grow dull and mute, and she begins to forget what smell and touch and taste even are. Then the world splits in two and she yowls in shock. A menacing figure stands silhouetted against light so bright she can't even quantify it. Then she reaches down and is revealed to be Knifetop. She's saved. Her loyal minion has come to... Another Knifetop reaches in and both of them haul her out. She's carried with a hand under each armpit and marched by the Knifetops past other Knifetops and into the next room where Knifetop sits at the table and two more Knifetops stand in each corner, heavily armed and furious to see her. No, this is bad. This is very bad. She begins pulling at the axiom to effect her escape, and instantly it's scrambled as if someone dropped null into the area. Her consciousness fades, then fades back in to find herself sitting in a chair. Her arms and legs and tail are bolted down. She moves forward and back a little, the most she's been able to move in... How long has it been? Darla swipe. The Knifetop sitting opposite begins, and Darla looks to her in shock. Right, she was Darla Swipe, master of axiom in the minds of the peons around her. Manipulator, master, and molder of the petty wills of... Something crashes into the side of her face. Another Knifetop had hit her with a clipboard and now stands beside the sitting Knifetop. Jokes on them, the pain gave her focus. Who are you people? What's going on? Do you have any idea who you're messing with? Darla demands in a spitting fury. You are our prisoner. Whether this list of titles grows depends upon your behavior, the sitting Knifetop remarks. She then holds up a picture of the back of her own head, revealing the head of the axiomatic mental stake. Did you develop this yourself, or did you have help? She asks, and Darla merely growls as she thinks of a plan of escape. Clearly axiom won't work. These crazies use null fast and loose. Her fighting claws have been removed, and she can feel tight wrappings of rubber around her fangs, blunting them to uselessness. She's naked, she's wet, but she's healthy. She still has her foot claws. Answer the question or earn the title Lab Cat, the Knifetop standing next to the one sitting threatens. Darla gathers phlegm in preparation to spit as her answer. Yet before she can let fly her displeasure, the world fades away and she's once more in the coffin. Everything bleeds away. Time, senses, any flow or sense of reality. Memory is the only retreat. Yet it only makes it worse. The memories crash into wakefulness and a sensation of wrongness. She's being tampered with, toyed with, and she has no idea how. The light shatters the dark world of the coffin, and he knife tops drag her out. It's exactly the same as the last time. Same tiny differences between the knife tops, same number of steps, same door. Same everything. She doesn't bother with the axiom this time. She lets them strap her in. What makes you think my sisters won't tear your heart out for this? Beyond the fact they don't know you're here? Controlling your minions through fear shatters when you need desperate aid. Your operation is ours now. The sitting knife top explains, and Darla tries to lunge at her only to be struck by the clipboard again. Only it feels good. It hurts, yes, but she loves it. That blow was wonderful. She catches her own thoughts and sits back a bit. She can't reach to check. Does she have an axiomatic mental stake implanted? The thought turns her insides to ice. What the hell is she dealing with? Who the hell is she dealing with? I see you noticed the effects of your new title, the sitting knife top remarks. Title? Prisoner and Lab Cat. Do you wish to add to this admittedly short list of titles? The knife top with the clipboard says. Now then, Miss Swipe. You're going to tell us who else helped you in creating this. The sitting knife top says, holding up a picture of the axiomatic mental stake. Why, so you can make your own? She demands, and the sitting knife top raises an eyebrow. Is that your final answer? She asks, and Darla's eyes narrow in a glare. So it is, she remarks, and the world swirls around her. Darla awakens to darkness again. The numbness is beyond anything else that she ever imagined. She's not stuffed in cotton, she's not even numb, her sense of touch is gone. She screams, and though she hears the sound, she doesn't feel her throat move. She thrashes and feels nothing, only hears the slight splashing of the warm water and the tiny, helpless thumps she can make against the edges of the coffin. She slams her head into the top and can't feel a thing. She chews on her tongue and there's nothing. It's all nothingness. She feels nothing. She yowls and yowls until they grow hoarse, and she can taste the blood in her throat. Her thrashes continue until she finally feels something, exhaustion. That's when the world shatters again, and the knife tops drag her out and back into the interrogation chair. This time there's a light meal in front of her that the sitting knife top is enjoying. I hope you don't mind, it's been some time since our last chat and I found myself famished. The sitting knife top says, and Darla can feel herself drooling. Her stomach is empty, utterly empty, but she hasn't starved. They've been keeping her alive despite starvation. She doesn't know how, but the fact she can smell something is like an orchestral choir going off in her mind. Give it to me. Feed me, she screams at him. Now, there's no cause for poor manners, especially considering your situation. My situation, you sick! The clipboard crashing into her head interrupts her. She feels it, and it is good. She slumps nearly bonelessly in sheer relief at feeling something after so long. She looks up in sheer relief to find the clipboard knife top glaring at her. Do that again, she says. You're in no position to give orders, the clipboard-bearing knife top remarks. Do it. Now, she commands, and she smiles as the clipboard is brought back. Then it stops in front of her face to show a picture of the axiomatic mental stake lying on a tray. Tell us who else designed these and I'll hit you all you like, the knife top promises. Yeah, no, I won't. Screw you. Burn in the pits of whatever hell your kind fear you. The world swims away into nothingness again. She's back in the coffin and nothing helps. Every sound she makes and memory she dives into fades away so quickly that reality, self, and memory. Reality, thought, memory, self, everything washes away and drips into nothingness. Are her eyes closed or open? Does she even have eyes anymore? Has she ever had eyes? What use are eyes when there is nothing to see? Was there ever anything to see, or was it just a delusion? As she ponders if there ever was, and ever the world shatters, and she screams in pain as spears of purest light pour into she eyes, and she tries to scramble away from the horrible, agonizing suffering. She screams and thrashes and fights and panics as the knife tops drag her away, past the other knife tops and into the room with knife tops sitting there while drinking a cup of something that smells like purest poison. Everything is horrible. She wishes she could be numb again. It's only bad, it's all bad, and it's all wrong and awful and wicked and twisted and just wrong. She's strapped into the chair, and each sensation, smell, sight, taste, and sound is worse than the last as she fights with all she has before all energy leaves her, and she slumps into place, sobbing. The stench of urine and feces cause her to gag, even as shame burns through her as painfully as everything else. Miss Swipe! The sitting knife top begins, and she flinches back with a scream. The soft voice was the bells of doom that slammed through all reality and shook her bones to shards. There is silence with only the deafening echo of her own sobs and the drip, drip, drip of her soiling falling to the floor. Then something cuts through everything else, a sound. It's perfect. It's pure and wonderful, and she turns to see it. The clipboard crashes into her face, and a wonderful sensation rocks through her body, causing her to moan low and long in sheer relief and satisfaction. She works up the strength to see the knife top that struck her with the clipboard and pauses. Things are wrong. Everything but the knife top are horrible and wrong, but there's something else, something bubbling beneath it all. Oh, right! They're not actually knife top and a dozen identical carob. They're all fakes. It's all fakes. She finally recalls that she's being interrogated as her eyes widen and she starts hyperventilating in panic. Then she opens her eyes and sees the knife top with the clipboard again. There is something wonderful behind the illusion, something utterly magnificent and amazing, and she needs to see it. "Ma'am, we need you to tell us who can make these," the sitting knife top says, but she doesn't even glance that way. "Miss Swipe?" the clipboard-holding knife top asks, and Darla nods excitedly. To hear her last name spoken from this wonderful thing disguised as knife top is bliss. "Can you name everyone that you know can make these?" It's the picture of the axiomatic mental stake. This is why it... Yes. She remembers all the questions and the darkness and the everything for that one stupid question. "No one. I killed them." She answers and receives 2 pats on the head. It's joy and happiness, and from now on, everything good must be measured in pats, but will never come close. "Oh?" the clipboard knife top asks, and she nods. The sound was so perfect and wonderful and gushy good. It was almost half a pat in goodness. Yep. I had them all wearing bombs as they worked and said they'd be free when they're done. They were free to die, so I set them off when I understood everything. Boom! Then the clipboard Kinfee-top reaches over and scratches behind her ears, prompting another low, shuddering moan of purest bliss. They truly are all that is right and good and wonderful. Each scratch is easily worth 2 pats each, and she got 3 behind each ear. It was amazing. "We have just a few more questions, and then everything becomes better, okay?" the clipboard knife top asks, and Darla nods as fast as she can. "It can get better?" "There's better? She wants it! She wants it so much. How many more did you make? How many of them are in people? Which people, and where are they?" the clipboard knife top asks, and Darla nods. She knows almost all of that. 5 total, all in people. "There's you, knife top. There's also Flayer and Cutter and Shaker and Breaker." Flayer's a big, flappy sort of woman, but not a bird. Cutter has extra arms that are knives. Shaker has a big shoka thing at the end of her tail and nothing else. "Oh!" And Breaker's the biggest and meanest of the bunch. Big teeth and... I remember. A Sonir, a Snikt, a Nagasha without arms, and a really big Horchka. They're all on Centris somewhere. I don't know where, but my communicator... It's, Where's my communicator? Wait, this isn't... Darla begins to come to her senses, and the knife top with the clipboard smiles more beautifully than anything she can imagine, leans over and kisses her on the brow. Darla slumps into unconsciousness, and Corporal Lore leans back and lets his illusion fade away. He lets out a huge breath through clenched teeth as Sir Philip removes the pin that allowed the illusion and places it on the table. A most succinct summarization of the information. He notes before refilling his cup of tea and taking a drink. "Cool or not, it's needed. I feel dirty using the tricks we pulled off the persona nail is just wrong. Playing with her sensory perception? Shutting off senses? Altering them to be nothing but pleasure or pain, shifting all stimuli from specific sources into pleasure? It's insane," Corporal Lore remarks, and Sir Philip nods. "I hate to say it, young man, but I have seen worse. Not by much granted, but you greatly accelerated her treatment. Ordinarily, it takes weeks, perhaps even months, to reach this form of pliability. This interrogation method is entirely too effective to not be used again. It's entirely too fucking evil to have been used now," Laura mutters under his breath. "Care to explain yourself, young man?" Sir Philip demands crossly, and for a moment Lore freezes before he turns to face the elderly spy. "I don't care how good the results are. What we just did was fucking wrong. Yes, good things will come of this. Lives will be spared, suffering will be alleviated, and it was all on the price of one wicked and cruel person's suffering. But it was still fucking wrong," Laura says. "Yeah, that was foul," Herbert remarks as he tosses his own pin onto the table. "I hope things like this are few and far in between," Harriet mutters as she lets her own disguise drop. Sir Philip smiles faintly. "Good. They have proper morals and know where the line must be drawn and likely when to cross that line. 2 very important traits. Thankfully they are. I won't deny it. This was roughly as dirty as the business can get. You'd have to be a sociopath to avoid that sickening sensation in the pits of your stomach. That's good. That's very good. Remember this moment. While inevitable, these moments can be put off. The better you are, the more skilled, the more focused, the more attentive and capable you prove yourselves, the less you will need to sully yourself in this kind of dirty work. Yet in the end, you must understand that what matters isn't how comfortable with yourself you are. It isn't whether or not you can sleep at night. It's whether the job is done. For if the job needs to be done, then it must be done, and if it's not you to see it done, then they might send a sociopath who will do things such as this without so much as a blink, Sir Philip says before standing up. He adjusts his tailcoat and sighs. You children can leave now. I'll tidy up, he offers. None of them move, and he raises an eyebrow in response. With all due respect, sir, this is all our mess. We will all clean it up, Laura says, and Sir Philip nods with a more genuine smile. Whatever fears he had for the suitability of his replacements are fading to nothingness.